Can you negotiate the rental amount with Section 8? Is it really possible? In this video, I am going to get into that. But if you have been watching my channel for a while, you're probably wondering, what is this? Where's Monique? Where, where is her face? And I'm going to tell you, I was at the dermatologist yesterday to get this part on my nose that had too much sun removed, and I have a big old white bandage across my face. I'm not in any kind of pain or anything, but if I showed you my face, you would be staring at me like, what is wrong with her? What happened? And it's nothing serious, but I'm quite not pretty right now. And it's unfortunate because I am in the process of putting together a course, and my course is called, I'll show you here. It's called Section 8 Rental Mastery, the Pat and Monique Method. And this is a terrible picture of the two of us. So I've had a series of things. The course is launching January 15th of 2024. So when you're watching this, hopefully you're seeing this after it's launched and I'm not a wreck anymore and I don't have a Band-Aid over my nose. And last week was the week I was going to go get headshots because clearly my husband and I don't know how to pose. I have a problem every time I pose for the camera. My eyes look shut. So you can tell in this picture I'm prying my eyes open. Anyway, but people say, oh, Monique, I like you because you're so authentic. Well, there I am, authentic with my eyes wide open. But the point is, I am making this course. I'm teaching people how to master working with Section 8. It's very Detroit specific. In this slideshow, this is kind of a sample of what's in my course. I'll repurpose this slideshow and put it in my course about negotiating. And I did just talk with a specialist when I was out of town last week when I was supposed to be getting headshots. And I'm like, how do I do this? I just don't even know like the whole marketing bit. He's like, you have to have a free offer. So I have a free offer now. And I had this phone screening questionnaire made up. And this is just the page one of it. But page two goes into if you are asking somebody on Section 8, you're trying to get from them what is the amount of rent you can actually charge them. And there's different ways that you ask people if they have Section 8, if they're new to Section 8, if they've been on Section 8, and then to take it a level higher if you're in the city of Detroit. My course goes into a lot of the differences between the different Section 8 offices in Detroit and what to expect, which you'll see here in this slideshow what that is. As I'm making this, I don't have the link to give you, so you're gonna have to email me if you want this. And that's how I'll get you on my mailing list, is through the free offer. So you'll get this for free, which is cool. It's really a very helpful thing. The people I've shared it with are really excited about it. You'll get that for free. And then you'll get the information to see if my course is something that you would be interested in or not. And if you want details about my course, in the description box below, there's somewhat of an outline of what's going to be in it. But you're going to get the best idea what's in it just watching the slideshow. So talking about rent negotiations, I give you quality material in all my videos. It's extremely helpful to me. If you like and subscribe, it keeps me going. It keeps me wanting to give you all this information. So there's two different times when you have a Section 8 tenant. I'm not going to go into what Section 8 is. I've made other videos about that. My course goes into a lot about how Section 8 works, really the nitty gritty of it. I'm assuming if you're watching this, you already know what Section 8 is. It's basically the government helps tenants cover their rent and they pay it to us. So there's two different times where you can work with Section 8 and try to get a different or a higher rental amount. And it's so dumb that they call it a negotiation because it's barely a negotiation. I think it's funny, this people shaking hands. Yeah, that doesn't happen. I never even get to go to their offices, at least in Detroit. The Detroit Housing Commission, after COVID, they completely shut their doors. Nobody's going in there. So there's two times: after the RFTA, that's inside lingo, and I'll show you what that is, or when you're raising the rent. So let's go to RFTA. RFTA stands for Request for Tenancy Approval. This is the form that you fill out when you get a tenant. The tenant comes to you and says, hey, I want to rent your house. And they give you this form. It's in a move packet. And when you fill it out, you have to say the proposed rent. And on this one, I was able to work with this tenant from my questions. Actually, I get a lot of information out of people from that free offer, my questionnaire, to figure out exactly how much rent could I really charge. And I have a 4-bedroom house, and I know in Detroit kind of what the rents are. And I know with this housing commission, it's Detroit Housing Commission, that they pay more than any other housing commission. There's one other in Detroit that pays a lot. Then there's other ones that pay a lot less. I have all this information where I know what to go for. But I always say shoot for the moon. Just put some great big high number in there. And what happens is they will call and schedule an inspection, and it means they accepted the amount that I put on there. Or they'll do something else. Like in this case, they did do something else this time. They wrote to me and they said, hey, your house on Beaconsfield, that was too high, but we'll give you $1,683. And I'm like, sweet, I'm very happy with that amount. And they're saying here, you can't raise it for another year. And they call this negotiated. Who negotiated what? They're just telling me what to do. I don't get to negotiate. If you notice here, I'm making this in January, and I did this in November. They sent me this before the inspection. And so I knew exactly what the rent was. Sometimes you don't. It's hard with different housing commissions, just knowing how much rent you're getting. Like you're well into it. You've got the paperwork filled out. You've taken it off the market. And then they come back and they're like, oh, I'm only going to pay you this much. And it's a problem. There's a lot of that going on. Another part of my course is being part of a mastermind where you get to work with other people that are going through the same thing. And we'll do a group meeting and we'll get to ask these questions like, what does this mean for this housing commission? How do I do that there? Anyway, so I did this back in November, and just yesterday I get this email, and it's not the same Sherry Meadows, it's somebody else. And I know because I've been doing this for so long, I don't know this woman's name. She's new there. It's not surprising that they get a lot of turnover. Their pay there is really low. But I got this new woman, and she sent me the same form, the requested rent of $1,719, and it said a different amount of 15 something. And I'm like, that's like $100 lower. There is no way. It threatened me in the email that if I didn't sign it, that they were going to tell the tenant to go somewhere else. The tenant's already living in the house at this point. So I wrote back and I said, no, I don't agree. I'm not going to accept this because I don't agree to it. And I sent her this form saying, this is what I agreed to. And I kept thinking, well, what's she going to do? And she wrote back, oh, sorry for the confusion. Like, really? I got my $1,683, which is an excellent price in Detroit. I'm very, very happy with that. And it's because it's Detroit housing. There's another thing that can happen. There's different housing commissions. I've got a spreadsheet that I'm constantly adjusting for my students about how the different housing commissions work. There's some of them that are under the umbrella of MSHDA, Michigan State Housing Development Authority. Now, Detroit Housing Commission is not under MSHDA. MSHDA is separate. And they have private people that contract to put vouchers out. So I had a tenant, a MSHDA tenant, who was through one of the housing commissions. And we had already been through this process where they wrote back, they said, oh, Monique, the rent you put on there was way too high, which I always shoot for the moon. So yeah, of course it was. And they said, we'll only accept, and I don't remember specifically this house, but I think it was like 15 something for a 3-bedroom, which I'm thrilled with. That's fantastic. I'm good with that. I'll go with it. It's not a housing commission that I think gives great big high vouchers. Okay, that'll work. But they needed to prove, because they said the 15 is too high for that neighborhood. Can you prove that it's not? And it's like they have to turn this into the state to say, look, here it is. She's saying that there's other ones. We can justify that we're paying this 15 whatever. So what I did, I don't own this house on Packard. I went on Trulia and I found houses with my same zip code. You know what? They actually returned this to me. I'm looking at this now because I put Detroit, Michigan, and the zip code all on the same line. That's not going to work. Really? It's all right here. But anyway, I found my same zip code and the same number of bedrooms and bathrooms. And these people were asking $1,750. And you can't do one that says Section 8 only, which I'm one of the only people that has the nerve to write Section 8 only, because I know from having talked to Fair Housing that I can do that, because not having Section 8 is not a protected class. Anyway, I had another client tell me he got stuck on this part up here, that he needed a rent roll or a tenant ledger. What do I do? Do you have anything? Like, no, you don't. You just go and you find this on Trulia and make sure it's apples to apples as much as you can, but make sure their rent is the same or higher so you can justify it. And then you fill out all this stuff about utilities and everything. And it's not like the ad had all those answers for me. I mean, I knew it was a single family. I just made sure that I turned in a form that was like compared to like. so that the Housing Commission can turn it into the state if they're audited or something, is what I think. They make it sound like they have to send it to the Capitol in Lansing, and then they'll say yes or no. But I think they just stick the form in a file, because I've never had them turn it down. I've never had them say, well, that wasn't a good comparison. They always have taken it, but we already had a number. I didn't get 1750. We already had a number for whatever house that was. Then the other time is when it's time to raise rent, and different housing commissions do different ways of raising the rent. You kind of have to find out with your housing commission, what form do they require. So one of the housing commissions, one of my favorites, is Taylor Housing Commission. This Taylor one, I read the rules. It said I had 60 days to turn it in. I'm shooting for the moon. And I went to the HUD FMR. If you Google that, you can find it. And I went for the highest amount of rent for a 3-bedroom, which was $15.95. I'm just throwing it out there. Just whatever they come back with is better than what I'm getting. And I sent it in on January 2nd. I'm like, well, it said 60 days, but there was Christmas and then there was the holiday. So I don't know what they'll do. So I'll show you what they did. They wrote back. They received it from $1,275. I just got that tenant in a year ago at $1,275, and I knew I could get more for her, but it's much easier to raise the rent than to get these housing commissions to start at the max of $1,595. And they said the rent rate cannot be approved at $1,595. The current market rate is $1,400. I don't disagree with that. That's actually pushing it. That's a high market rate for a 3-bedroom. A cash paying tenant is more like $1,000. This is a very generous amount. They're not MSHDA. I can't give them the MSHDA form. And they didn't say, oh, if you want to dispute it, you can. And I'm not going to. I like that $1,400. I'm really happy with that. But I did screw up, because apparently, according to the HAP contract, it really wasn't a full 60 days. They didn't care that it was Christmas and, the January 1st, whatever. So I missed it by a couple days. I have to redo my form and put in $1,400. And then in a year, I'll see what I can raise it to. But that is how you do it. And you think this rent negotiation, and you think working with Section 8's all happy like this. And they've got these nice clean desks, and everyone smiles and, oh, look at us all get along. No. It's hard working with them sometimes. So my course really navigates the way through it. I hope you go for that. Definitely email me if you want that form. It's Monique at greatdaypm.com. You want that, and I'll get you on my mailing list so you can find out more if the course is good for you or not. If it's not, just unsubscribe. I would love your comments. Have you ever had any other experiences trying to raise rent or get a higher rent? It was one of the housing commissions here that's one of the cheapest ones. They came back with a number. I'm like, oh, I'm going to negotiate back. And I threw out some other number, and they wrote back, we do not negotiate. I'm like, oh, wow, easy killer. So I just wondered how it has gone for you. And thank you for watching. I do have a website called manageityourself.me. So if you want to check there, that will be where my course information will be. Thank you so much for watching. And I look forward to your comments and questions.